Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm glad we got at least a few people here.
We have the important ones.
Please stand and body your spirit as we sing Enter, Rejoice, and Come In, number 361. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Hillsborough. We are a congregation that is open to all who seek spiritual growth and community with others. Whoever you are, member, friend, or guest, and whatever brought you here this morning, we're glad you're here today. Here at UUCA, we don't require that we all have a common set of religious beliefs. Basing our actions on the 7 principles in the front of your gray hymnal, we strive to love, support, and encourage each other in our individual quests for personal growth and understanding in matters of the heart and spirit. We aspire always to be an inclusive circle where all are welcome. My name is Lou Goodall. I am your worship coordinator today. I'd like to thank everyone who's made today's service possible. It's truly a gift of love. I want to thank Aviva Enoch, our music director and head of our worship team. I also want to thank Amy Dark, who printed the order of service for us, A.C. Larrington for handing out our orders of service, Steve Mahaley and Alex Mboro, who manage our communications, and, am I correct? It's not Diana Phillips today. Who's the listening ear? Okay. All right, not sure about that part. If necessary, I will be the listening ear after the service.
No.
Oh, there you are. Okay. In addition, I want to thank those who are on the Religious Exploration Team, the Buildings and Grounds Committee, MINCO, GovCo, the Ministerial Interview Team, and the other members of the Listening Ear Team. Our theme for the month of July is still play. And our speaker, Graham Cooper Folkheimer, has kindly agreed to share with us how play has helped him become the person he is today. Before we create our sacred space, let's take a moment to share announcements for the good of the community. If you have an announcement for the congregation, please come to the side microphone, identify yourself, and speak directly into the microphone.
Hi, I'm Aviva, and I have two announcements. One is We need a ride for AC for next Sunday. I know a lot of people are out of town next week, so please let me know if you can take AC bring AC to church next Sunday. And then the second thing is, I'm in a piano club called Presto Piano, and we meet in a different location once a month. And it's pianists who play classical music, and we just perform for each other. A lot of the things will be works in progress, so it's not like a formal recital where everything's going to be perfect. But anyone is welcome to come. It's here this afternoon at 2 o'clock, and there's going to be refreshments afterwards. And yeah, so just let me know if you think you might come, just so that I have an idea of how many extra programs to print out. So, thank you.
Next Sunday, I'm Diana Phillips. Next Sunday, after the service, there will be a memorial service for Zach Halleck, who's been a member of our congregation for many years, a loyal, kind member of our congregation. We will be serving food. I unfortunately will not be here. I'll be out of town next Sunday. But I have a sheet for food sign up. If you would please tell your name and what you can bring for the reception after the service, which will be following the church service next Sunday. And I also have a sympathy card, a Hopi prayer, for Zach's family. If you would sign it today, and I'll leave it for people to sign next Sunday, because we aren't very many people today. Thank you.
For a couple of weeks now, the Justice United announcement has been in the e-news about the Summer Justice School. The first session of that is going to be held here, and it would be embarrassing if there weren't members of our congregation present for that. So please register through the e-news and plan on coming to at least that first session of Justice School. There's going to be a catered dinner, and there's going to be some short workshop about how Justice United works. And so it would be awesome to see you all here.
What is it?
I can't remember. It's in the e-news. I think it's like the second Thursday in August, or maybe the first, I don't know. That's like,
Oh, read your e-news.
yeah, read the e-news. But I just wanted to emphasize, it hasn't been in the e-news that it's going to be held here, and I'm pretty sure that it's going to be held here. So.
Just wanted to mention too, as usual, beverages and snacks will be available for your enjoyment in the library after the service. If there are no more announcements, let's prepare for worship and create our sacred space. If you haven't already done so, please silence your cell phones. And let's pause a moment to look inward and find in our hearts our desire to love, understand, and support each other today and every day. Our opening words are The Joy Diet by Martha Beck. And I added a tiny addition at the end. Many of my clients stopped playing years ago. They wouldn't dream of doing anything they'd call play, except on rare occasions like planned vacations or jury duty. They believe that play is inimical to success, that allowing themselves to play would cause them to lose their competitive edge at work. This is incredibly ironic when you consider that play-intensive nature of the play-intensive nature of our brains is the very thing that's allowed us to outcompete every other species on Earth. A playful mindset allows you to master whatever is in front of you, to form symbiotic alliances and partnerships, to adapt successfully to any challenging situation, and above all, to find a sense of fun that makes the whole shebang intrinsically satisfying. Play is precisely what you need most to succeed at work. It will also immeasurably improve your personal life. But as far as I'm concerned, the main reason to practice play is that it's extremely, vitally, pivotally good for your career, and I added, and for your personal well-being. We'll now light the chalice. The title of this is Superheroes. Please keep that word in mind. Mindful that with great power comes great responsibility, we light this chalice in the hopes that in brightest day, in blackest night, our faith will flame on. Signed by Spider-Man, Green Lantern, and the Human Torch. Please stand in either body or spirit as we sing our opening hymn, Gather the Spirit, number 347. Ours is a welcoming community where we find connection, a sharing community where our joys are celebrated, and a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. Each Sunday, we take some time to reflect on the special happenings that have occurred this week among our members and friends. Some choose to share aloud, while others choose to remain silent. Here we make room for both. For those of you who'd like to share aloud, please take a moment before we begin to center yourself and collect your thoughts so that what you share this morning is personal, heartfelt, and breathed. Please come forward, tell us your name, and share what's in your heart. When you're finished, you may release a stone into the vase on the altar. You who prefer to silently acknowledge the joys and sorrows currently in your hearts, I invite you to come to the altar and release a stone into the vase in silence while Aviva plays Spirit of Light. After everyone's seated, you're all invited to join in singing one verse of the hymn, and those words are printed in the order of service. Children's recessional in the order of service. Is there actually anything? Okay, everybody's staying here. Okay, so we will move ahead. I would like to introduce our speaker. Many of you already know G as a friend and member of the UUCH community. For those of you that don't, he presents himself as an electronic musician and composer. I don't know, are you the one that's electricated? I don't know. Electronic musician and composer. He graduated with a degree in music technology and has taken his music across Europe and Japan before immigrating here to his forever home of Hillsborough from his original birthplace of Middlesbrough, found in the northeast of England. He is a current student of music composition at UNCG, a husband, and a new parent of 2 teenagers. He is also a firm believer in the 7th UU principle as an active voice in the fight for animal rights and for freedom, justice, respect, and equality for all who share this earth.
Thank you, Lou. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Whew. It's an absolute pleasure to be speaking here for my first time during one of our congregation's services. However, it has to be said that it's funny to me that I'm even doing this. I am without a doubt that my British friends and family will be faced with a great deal of confusion later when this pops up on their Facebook. The notoriously outspoken, anti-organised religion person they knew, now standing at a pedestal in a place of faith giving a sermon. This is happening. So during this month, we have already had some fantastic talks regarding play, the relationships of play with faith and ministry, teaching and in parenthood, and even with love. The reason why I was asked to speak, it might be because, even to my newfound friends and family here, it is immediately apparent that I might have some history with play. Perhaps spending most of my time recreationally and creatively, probably, as a video games addict maybe, or a music composer that narrowly and specifically only composes for computer games. Or perhaps it is because I exude just a hint of being somewhat, almost fanatical about board games, perhaps a little too enthusiastically. There is an amount of truth to be found here, although exaggerated, and it is not without reason that it could be argued I have dedicated most of my adult life engaged in play. Perhaps too much. Or has it? It has been a lifestyle that throughout my adult life, during conversations with others at work or social gatherings, has certainly raised many an eyebrow. If I had $1 for every time I'd heard, "There's board games other than Monopoly?" Regrettably, however, I do look back negatively about some of the time in which my engagement with play has shaped parts of my life. When I was asked to speak, I knew straight away that my approach would be a very personal one, and so I planned to speak about a few of my own experiences, good and bad, and my feelings on the whole topic. I do not know what I can promise that you will get out of these few shared minutes as I ramble. I'm merely a community friend, and I'm definitely not a minister. But I hope you find it at least a smidge interesting. Play is defined as a range of activities done for recreational pleasure and enjoyment, something that can be engaged with at any stage in life, anyone's life, although it is commonly associated with children and the adolescent. Play is also observed in our world among higher functioning animals as well, most notably mammals and birds. To me, this means that play is for everyone, and that it is not something you should abandon once adulthood sets in. With this in mind, I would like to pause for a moment and ask that everyone think about instances of play in their life. Reflect upon how you spent your time this week, and think about whether or not you are spending time in your own lives engaging with play. In a moment, I will ask if any of you have memories of the week you'd like to share. I'm going to start, and I have a very long list. I had guests over and shared food and played board games. I travelled to Alicia's workplace with a picnic and some games to play whilst her long experiments were processing in the lab. I've actually played at least 10 different board games this week with Alicia. We even played on the computer, playing a game called Terraria for a number of hours into the night. And then after she goes to sleep, I stay up playing Nintendo or watching videos of YouTube, specifically of people playing card games. I did some gardening with Aurora, and we shared loads of conversations about music and botany. I've gotten pretty good at identifying sweet gum trees taking root and Microsygium veminium, commonly known as Japanese stillgrass. We also started demolishing a backyard play platform, which led to a fun debate over which was the best way to destroy it. And tomorrow I'm seeing Indiana Jones at the cinema with one of our one and only Steve Mahaley, which I'm really looking forward to. I also practice some music, I've designed a card game, I've been watching some moths in a dude's backyard, my list goes on and on. I've done a lot this week. So yeah, it's been a lot of play. Does anyone have anything to share? What have you guys done?
Every morning after 2 cups of coffee, my wife and I play Wordle against each other.
Nice.
Wordle.
So it wasn't this week, but I had my 59th birthday party, and it was all about games. We played pickleball and ladder ball and cornhole, and it was the best birthday party since I turned 10.
I play Wordle every morning and compare scores with my best friend Susie, who lives in Massachusetts. And at night, Bob and I play a game called Chihuahua every night at 8 o'clock.
Richard and I have a standing date, play canasta every Friday night. And my
We keep connected with David's extended family. We have a D&D game that we play remotely every Friday, and we get to do that. We started that during COVID as a way to keep us all from going crazy when we couldn't go and see anyone, and now it's a great way to maintain ties with family.
Most Fridays. We have to reschedule. We'll hopefully do it later today.
Yeah.
But
Got one more.
Well, aside from Wordle and Spelling Bee and all the games that the New York Times has, I get my biggest, to me, play is when I laugh. And I have this game I play with myself where my left hand, because I'm left-handed and my left hand is my stronger hand, is my caregiver, and my right hand is my patient, and we talk back and forth, and we always end up laughing.
Go on, buddy.
All right, so I can't do the accent. G is my brother. This is from YouTube.
Joe.
Streaming. G is my brother. He knows we've always said play can be like social therapy for nerds who may not get it elsewhere, especially cooperative games like D&D and LARP, LARPing. Yeah. You got an
Yeah.
audience in the UK.
That's definitely my sister. Yeah. Well, thank you all for sharing, even people online. It's amazing. As you can see, all forms of play are valid, and all of us, whether we recognise it or not, are going to hopefully have play in our lives at some point, no matter where you are or who you are with, or even when you're spending your time alone. Earlier, I suggested that play will not always be positive. You know, all of your examples were wonderful. So before we get to talking about me in the present, allow me for a moment to tell you all about what happened in the past in regards to play. A cautionary tale of sorts that I hope none of you can relate to in your current circumstances. So, I guess it all started shortly after my rebellious self at the age of 16 was expelled from the last years in secondary school, which the British call the sixth form. In the American system, I think this equates to the final years of high school, which is where my eldest daughter is now. So don't be getting any ideas from this. Anyways, the circumstances under which that decision was made is both kind of funny and surprisingly relevant. Ultimately, it was because I wrote a poem. It was mostly about the institution itself, that and the beautiful image of it on fire, which was funny until the police got involved. Needless to say, my parents weren't too happy at the time with me, and generally one thing led to another, so I soon found myself out of the family home as well. During this time, I was very interested in music, pursuing romance, and altering my mind state through the consumption of beverages and consumables that I should not have been doing. These things continually placed me in many hostile and confrontational scenarios, as I repeatedly got with the wrong people and hung with the wrong crowds. My own volatile personality was also problematic. For instance, every time I found new musicians to form a project with, it always ended with me feeling like no one shared my particular passions. There was only so much of the Beatles, The Who, Oasis, Blur that a young me could take. I wanted to be playing the good stuff, you know, like Napalm Death, Cannibal Corpse, Cradle of Filth, Slipknot and Slayer! Because those are the good bands, right? Right? You get it. So, anyways, I definitely didn't have a band, and romance was also a bust. Eventually I decided no more. I can do whatever I want without needing others. And who needs romance anyways? Not me. I decided that the best course of action was to go it alone. Now I have my own place and I'm living fairly isolated, secluded and cut off. I spent many of my waking hours fully engaged in my newfound love, my computer. I would say that for close to a decade I was glued to that screen whenever I wasn't at work or forcing myself to sleep for work, because otherwise I wouldn't bother to. In my mind, I was socializing with people all the time. I had so many friends. The reality is that I was alone. I was incredibly depressed, and I was addicted to the system. I was addicted to play, because it distracted me from the misery of that loneliness. When I was in a bad mood, my mood swings were explosive. I would get angry, I would break things, I would swing at people, you know, like people who were close to me. Now obviously, I eventually realised this. I began seeking help and started new romances and connections. I eventually broke away from my computer and transitioned into the social hobby of board gaming. What's important to identify here is that the problem was not what I was doing. It was a problem of moderation and of rejecting the social aspects of my life, my friends and my family. I intentionally cut myself off from the world with a mentality that I don't need anyone and everybody sucks, which is an extreme way of thinking. But even without that mindset, I think it's an easy trap to fall into, of enjoying one's alone time so much that you forget to interact with the people that are close and dear to you. You can easily forget to see the love and support in the communities around you, and it slips your mind to communicate with these people, and then the relationships just wither. I still remember when I played the first 2 board games that made me open my eyes and my heart to the hobby. Power Grid was one of them, about running an electricity supplier and competing against rival companies. And Talisman, a racing game set in a fantasy world in which mighty warriors and wizards compete to obtain a sacred artifact known as the Crown of Command, which holds the power to conquer the universe. Which sounds great, right? Like, we all want that. I could talk a lot about board games, and what is important for me to share is just how much my pursuit of this hobby improved my quality of life. I found friends, I attended local events, and then not so local events. I made annual trips to large conventions about board games. Some had attendance of over 32,000 people. I even joined a team specifically for playing Star Wars miniatures. My team was the Tees Squadron. That's the area of England I come from is actually called Teesside because of the River Tees that flows through my town. With them, I travelled up and down the country for fun weekends of food and gaming halls filled with competitors battling it out for shiny prizes. Like this one I got from the European Championships for top 16 in a tournament of over 100 people. The game I got quite serious about, in which I won this, was Star Wars Armada. I want to take a moment to share with you a memory that I have about one instance of playing this game. The specific rules of the game aren't important for you to understand the story, I hope. I also hope it conveys not only why I love the game, but more about how I think. The game is played standing face to face with your opponent in a physical space across a large and imposing 6 foot by 3 foot play area. Each player has command of a fleet of spaceship models, and the objective of each game is a little bit different, but typically it is about beating your opponent's forces in a conflict. In this one particular game, I was practicing for an upcoming tournament and getting comfortable with the moving parts of my selected playing pieces, testing how well they work together. As we began setting up for our game, I noticed that I was at a significant disadvantage. I was up against some seriously big heavy hitters, and I thought to myself, my ships can't repel firepower of that magnitude. Part of the skill of this game is being able to foresee how the game will shape itself a long time before events come to pass. You could visualise this game as if it was like the game chess. Every player takes turns going backwards and forwards, moving pieces that all have different properties. And if you don't plan many moves in advance, you risk losing important pieces and eventually losing the game. The real difference between that game and my game and chess is that my game has lasers and explosions, so it's way cooler. Star Wars Armada is typically played about 2 hours long, a game, and you have to be able to visualise as much of what will happen ahead of time as you can. As pieces start off the board and we add them to the game one by one for setup before the game begins, at the point on which we were setting up our game, I immediately recognised that I could easily lose the match because of my opponent's selection of pieces. My opponent also saw it and was very confident. However, he was up against me, and I had already identified one path to victory. I saw that I had an advantage of deploying my more important units into the battlefield after he had to. And he went ahead and deployed his fleet in a practiced standard attack formation, which looked strong and unbreakable. However, it was exactly what I had predicted he would do, so I deployed my ships. My opponent looked at me really confused. I positioned my forces in a way that suggested I was already fleeing the battle. "You know I'm over here, right?" he says, pointing to all his spaceships. "I know," I said, seemingly defeated. and as we began to play, I executed my trap. For the next hour of the game, I retreated my forces, but made it appear as if he could catch me if he kept ordering his units to try and pursue me, and he took the bait. As he chased me, his formation began to fall apart because his larger units couldn't keep up with his more agile small ones. The fast units that did manage to engage me in battle became easy prey without the support of his main forces, and he started taking losses whilst being unable to deal any meaningful damage to me. Eventually, he just walked around the table and grabbed my hand. He's like, "I know when I've been outplayed." He said, "That was a genius move. You could be a master tactician for the Royal Navy as far as I'm concerned." I laughed. I apologised for the real lack of engagement in our game, because this was an unusual sort of circumstance. We didn't really play the game the way you'd expect to, which is just, smashing at each other and shoot. But he assured me that he really enjoyed the game because I played it so well, and to turn what appeared to be a losing scenario into a victory was so fun to see happen. This game really demands a lot of strategy and tactics, and the ability to adapt to any given situation and see the possibilities of your actions way ahead of time. That is gameplay and decision making that I personally really enjoy, not to mention just a little bit of bluffing and calling your opponent's shots too. Well, eventually, moving on, playing this game led me to participating in the European Championships. One of them I attended was hosted over in Poland. Besides the tournament, what else do you think I did whilst I was in a foreign country I'd never visited before? I could have seen the country, went to the tourist destinations. We were a stone's throw away from famous sites like Auschwitz. But of course, I convinced my travelling compartments to stay in the hotel the entire time and play board games that I had taken for this trip. I remember specifically I'd taken Zombicide Invader. I may actually still have a new addiction problem. The point to all of this is that I found something that I loved, and I found others that did too. I involved myself with others to get the most out of our hobby, and still did that with my computer too, but instead of hanging around at home, I looked for local area network parties. This is where you take all your computers to one shared space and you're in the same room. So it's like playing a board game, but you're all on computers. I even created my own local area network at home with 3 computers in a row so I can enjoy that sort of experience with others. I think this mentality could be explored no matter what it is you're into. Sports, travel, gardening, cooking, knitting, embroidery, crafts, music, hiking, the list goes on. I know my daughter is especially into reading, which could be viewed as a solo hobby. However, she encourages her mum and dad to read the same books too and turns that activity into a book club and discussion, which I think is super cool. In conclusion, everyone should take the time to enjoy themselves, explore their creativity, or just engage themselves with challenges and puzzles, but also to make time for others. Don't focus solely on finding play alone. There is a great wealth of resources for solo play and enjoying that time in solitude, but I would advise you to open yourself up to the possibility of trying new things with others. Try to enjoy the things that other people do and find common ground with them. Because if I have learned anything, it's that going alone all the time is not healthy, and that experiences shared are actually the memories that you will treasure, and you won't find a new love by sticking only to what you know. My final question to you is this. Mario Kart, an arcade-style car racing game, which I once played all alone by myself in isolation against computer-generated opponents, eventually exploded into a frantic, fun-filled event with many of my close friends all in the same room, and in these games, the players in last place of each race would have to face the agreed-upon high stakes of taking off their pants. I don't get to do that very much anymore as kids, but the point is, you try and decide which one was ultimately more fun. Thank you.
Thank you, G. That was great. Each week, we take a monetary offering to support our social justice work in the community. This support comes in the form of donations. This month, the community partner we are collecting for is Orange County NAACP. You may donate by going online to our website at uuchnc.org, or by using the Vanco app on your phone. Please join me in the prayer of collective gratitude found in your order of service. For the love that surrounds us every morning, for the friends beside us, and for the generous gifts just received, let us be truly grateful. Our closing hymn is The Oneness of Everything.
No.
Oh.
'Tis a gift to be simple.
Oh, I got the wrong thing in here, sorry. Yeah, 'tis a gift to be simple.
Number 16.
closing words are two quotes. The first is from Walter Rauschenbusch. Play is anything we do for the love and joy of doing it, apart from any profit, compulsion, or sense of duty. It's the real living of life with the feeling of freedom and self-expression. The second one, slightly adapted, is by Mark Beckhoff. Play is also training for the unexpected. We'll extinguish the chalice. All together, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace, my friends, and blessed be.
Blessed be.
Cheers.